Well, hi, folks. Thank you for joining us here on Public Affairs. I am your host. My name is John Peterson. Here, if you've never seen us before or watched us before, we talk about the public affair, the issues that are currently and upcoming that will be affecting us here in the Marion area. So we're talking today with the mayor, Mr. Scott Schertzer. Very glad to have him here. So help me welcome him here. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for joining us. I know that we've been doing this we're at 12 years now, and I'm always amazed that every time we talk, it's always new. Have you noticed that?
Yes. Well, there's an occasional repeat of something that we do every year, but I look at it this way: I'm 12 years older, and you're 12 years wiser.
Yeah. Well, I'm frankly I'm a little flustered and humbled by that, but I am grateful that you do come and we talk about the things that are at issue here, and we discuss them, and then the viewer is able to participate in the conversation by watching, and they learn things about their community that they would not otherwise have learned. So we're grateful to you for all of that. I know that going into something that I was curious about is in Marion, you have been having a community cleanup. More than one has happened, and can you talk, number one, where is that community cleanup program at now, and can you talk something about the effect of having them in the Marion area?
Absolutely. So these micro cleanups have proved to be very successful, and we started them in August of this year. And it was so successful in August that we did one in September, and we thought maybe before the weather turns, we have an opportunity to do one more. And the difference between these community cleanups and what we have done in the past is we actually come right to your street, right to your neighborhood. And actually now we bring volunteers in that will help do the work. And so it is such a micro cleanup and it is so successful that we want to replicate this micro cleanup starting next spring. So in the past, what we used to do is we would put about 4 or 5 dumpsters in one of the local neighborhood elementary schools. Mm-hmm. But you living in that area, you would have to bring everything to that dumpster. And we sometimes did that on a Friday, a Saturday, a Sunday. Yes. What we do now, again, with this micro cleanup is we identify an area. And we've been working very closely with our ward councilman. Our first 2 were done with First Ward Councilman Kai Mead. Our second one, which starts tomorrow actually, will be in the 2nd Ward with Councilman Ayers Ratliff. So it's always great to see that the council people are out there working alongside our volunteers and the folks that live in that neighborhood. So this community cleanup will take place on October 22nd, October 21st, and on Thursday the 22nd, it goes from 9:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. And then the Friday, it'll be 9 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. And we have estimated so far that we have gotten almost 75 tons of trash and hundreds of discarded, abandoned tires. And now you and I have talked about the tire problem we have in our community.
Yes.
So we're actually going into the neighborhoods and we're pulling those tires out. And I want to thank everybody that's involved because local businesses have been providing lunch. I want to thank the Marion Probation Department because that's where a lot of our volunteers come from. I want to thank city employees, Service Director Kathy Chaffin and Cindy Thrapp, the city sanitarian. Casey Thomas, who is our code enforcement officer, is there. BJ Gruber often will stop by, our impact officer, to be a part of this. And our sanitation department is also in this cleanup process. So again, it's 2 days starting tomorrow, and it's the Mary Street, it's Commercial Street, and it's Fahey Street. Now those aren't very long streets, so that's why we added 3 of them. So we'll be there for the next 2 days doing this micro cleanup, working with the folks that live right in that neighborhood, picking up abandoned tires, trash, and it's usually the kind of trash that comes out of your garage, your basement, your shed, or you got some old lawn furniture that's stacked up behind a shed in the backyard. This is an opportunity to get rid of those kinds of things. So it's a very finely tuned machine. We have had other councilmen express interest about working in it. We hope they come out. All council members are invited. And even a county commissioner said that he wanted to come out and help. So the county commissioners are invited to come out over the course of the next 2 days in that Mary Street area cleanup that we're going to be doing.
That is profoundly interesting, and I'm really glad that I asked that question, and that you had that wealth of information. Next thing is, okay, so I know that we are, driving in here today, I noticed that there's leaves stacking up, blowing off a tree, stacking up in the yard, and we're at that point in time in the year when leaf collection is going to start. I was just curious, when does it start? And for the people viewing us here that either didn't remember or don't remember or didn't know it before, we can alert them to the fact that it's about ready to start.
Sure. So this year, leaf collection is actually going to start on Monday, October the 26th. And we hope that we're going to have all the leaves collected by Friday, December the 11th.
Oh.
So you have that time period between October 26th and December 11th. The problem is sometimes Mother Nature doesn't cooperate with us. Sometimes those leaves aren't all down yet. But it looks as if they're starting to fall right now. And so we will continue a sweep through the city. We have 3 vacuum trucks. If you rake your leaves down to the curb, not in the curb, not in the gutter, that's a no-no. But if you rake them down to your tree lawn or down to the edge of the street, we'll work clockwise or counterclockwise. I'm not sure which way they'll start this year. But those vacuum trucks will come in and they'll suck up all those leaves and we'll compost them and recycle them for future use in other areas. But this is a very popular program. We don't burn leaves like we used to. I remember as a kid, you raked it all to the what you call the berm, and then you just burned them in the berm. We don't do that anymore, unfortunately. And there was always this nice smoky scent across your community in the fall. But those days are behind us, folks. So if you're younger than the age of 50, you probably don't remember that. But we just do want to remind folks that I realize that many people might be raking their leaves this weekend, but we might not get to your neighborhood for another week or so. And we'll keep rotating throughout the city. If you don't want to wait on us, you don't have to. You can put your leaves in a brown biodegradable bag and take them to Barks Road, and that is Outdoor Resource Supply. And if you are a city resident, you may have to show proof of your residency, but you can dump them out there at no charge to you. I realize for many folks that's a bit of an inconvenience. Otherwise, you're going to have to wait until our vacuum trucks get into your neighborhood. And we really can't tell you exactly when that'll be because they just keep on working. And if we have to work a few days after December 11th to make sure we get everything picked up, we'll do that as well. When you get into December, the ground starts to freeze, the leaves start to freeze, and it makes it very, very hard for us to get them vacuumed up. That's why we have to have kind of a cutoff date, and we're looking at December the 11th. But please do not rake them into the street. That could be dangerous for not only the motoring public, but for pedestrians as well.
And plug up the sewer.
And that's what I was just going to say. You don't want those leaves to run down on the catch basin and plug up the storm sewer because that could cause a whole nother set of problems in your neighborhood. And I think we all know that we have enough issues with flooding in our community. We don't want to be the cause of those flooding problems we have on some of our lower lying city streets.
Wow, very well. Very good information. We are coming up very quickly now to trick or treat. I know that every year we talk about this, but sometimes we have to be reminded.
Yeah, this is another one of those things. Trick or treat. First of all, I'll tell you when it is. This year, in 2020, Trick or Treat is on Saturday, October 31st, from 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. That's on a Saturday. However, a lot of folks have been very concerned about the fact that we are in the throngs of a pandemic. And can I change Trick or Treat time? Unfortunately, the answer to that question is no. And I have right here in front of me a city ordinance from 1999 that basically says the day and the time with no exceptions. And I know a couple years ago we had a really bad storm on Trick or Treat night, and people were calling saying, can't you postpone it and do it during the day tomorrow because it was a Saturday? Unfortunately, as mayor, I do not have the flexibility to change the day or the time due to inclement weather, due to a Harding home football game, or due to a pandemic. So parents, please practice the safety protocols that we've all been hearing about these past few months if you are going to let your young ones go out and do trick-or-treating. And if you're passing out candy, make sure that you drop the candy in the bags or in the buckets for the kids. Don't allow them to reach in and grab candy, because that's how we spread germs and that's how we spread the pandemic. So if we practice those simple safety precautions, we believe that we can keep everybody safe. I know on the city's website there are recommendations on what the do's and don'ts are for trick-or-treating during a pandemic, and those recommendations come from the Ohio Department of Health. But I just have to say that it's got to be up to the parents and grandparents on whether you allow your young ones to go out and trick-or-treat. This is not a government decision. This is a parenting decision.
Very good. We talk often about job openings in municipal job openings. Are there any new ones?
Well, this is kind of a segment that we try and hit every month that we do this, and we do this monthly. And right now, this month, the only job openings we have, and this will sound like a broken record for anybody that watches us on a regular basis, but we are still looking, and almost always looking, for part-time city bus drivers. Again, part-time can sometimes lead to full-time. There's about three times in there.
And that's Marion Area Transit.
That's Marion Area Transit bus program, yes. So a part-time bus driver, if you have a commercial driver's license, that's bonus, but we don't always need one. But it will be very helpful if you happen to hold a commercial driver's license with a passenger endorsement. Now, the starting pay for something like this starts out at $11.35 an hour. And so you can always make application on the city's website, or if you still want to come into City Hall, because City Hall is still open, you can come to the third floor of City Hall. You can go to our HR clerk, Amy O'Connor, and she'd be very happy to help you get the paperwork that you need filled out as we begin the interview process for a part-time bus driver. Now, again, City Hall is at 233 West Center Street. We haven't moved. We've been there for about 45 years now, but you do have to wear a facial covering when you come into City Hall. And if you haven't been to City Hall in a while, what you'll notice is the new safety protocols. So we have 2 Marion City police officers that are stationed in the lobby, and you will have to put your purse or your baggage through an x-ray machine, and you will have to walk through a metal detector. Now, I know we've talked about this before, John, but maybe there are some folks that haven't been to City Hall in quite some time. The reason for these safety improvements and safety protocols is an Ohio Supreme Court mandate. Because City Hall is also the home of the Marion Municipal Court, all courtrooms and all court buildings have to have this kind of security in place. And we started this probably, I don't know, about June of this year.
Yeah, several months now.
First time that we've ever had to do this before.
Yeah. Okay, so we are at, going on to another one here, we are right at that point in time now when the city, looking at the budget for 2021, and I'm just wondering, how do you prepare for that And can you talk about that budgetary issue for Marion and for the upcoming year?
Absolutely. So the first thing that we do is we ask our department heads, whether it's police department, park department, the airport, to submit their budget. And usually their starting point is based on what were their expenditures from this calendar year, 2020. And so they put their budget together, maybe with some very small increases. Let's say that utility costs went up a little bit, insurance liability costs went up 5%. All those things have to be factored in. So the department heads, each department prepares their budget. It's submitted to the directors. That's the safety director, the service director, and the public works director. They're each responsible for various departments. So the directors go through the budget with the department heads. So let's say, for example, we have a department that has capital expenses. Well, we don't do capital expenses in our yearly budget. That we budget for that totally separate in another line item. So we'll pull out those capital expenses in that department. And a capital expense would be something like a new police cruiser, a new fire truck, a new dump truck for the garage.
Yes.
Okay, so we pull all those out. Most of our department heads know not to put capital expenses in their annual budgets, but sometimes they forget and we pull them out. So then what we do is it gets passed on to the city auditor, and they do what they call position-based budgeting. And that means in each one of those departments, we know that there are, let's say there's 50 firefighters in the fire department. So the auditor's office knows that they have to add the 50 positions. And with those 50 positions, there's healthcare costs, there's FICA, there's insurance, there are other taxes that have to be added in. And that all goes into the salary line item for every single department. And then we get a compilation of everything, and it tells us what our final budget is. We have a general fund budget, and we have enterprise fund. General fund would be departments like the police department, the fire department, the mayor's office, the parks. The enterprise fund departments would be utility billing, the sanitation department, the sewer department. So all the employees that work in those departments are paid for by revenues collected from the sanitation collection and from the sewer collection, which the utility billing department does. So we break it all down, we package it all up, and then it'll go to City Council the first committee of November. And I believe that's November the 2nd. So it should be ready to go by then. It'll go through committee. It'll go to full council. We'll do 3 readings on this budget. They can do 2 if they want to, but typically we do 3. So by the first meeting in December, we should be ready, or council should be ready, to pass the budget for 2021. And I'll be honest with you, as tough as this year has been, with the pandemic, with the social unrest, with a downturn in the economy, Marion City is stable, and we need to be cautiously optimistic about presenting our 2021 budget, but we believe that we do have enough revenue to make sure that we can do everything that we need to do and provide the services in 2021 for our citizens.
That was probably the clearest understanding that you, on a complex topic, that's one of the clearest understandings that I've ever heard, the way that all happens and is broke down, and I hope that if there's anybody out there who wonders about that kind of stuff, that they no longer have to wonder.
Well, I think one of the things that's been very helpful to not only the city of Marion, but many of the local governments across the state of Ohio is the CARES Act money, which has been passed by Congress onto each state. Then each state divides that up among counties, townships, villages, and even cities like Marion. We have received almost $2.6 million in CARES Act money to help with COVID-related expenses that we wouldn't have ordinarily had. So we were able to reimburse ourselves for a lot of the expenses we had, and now we can carry that money forward into 2021 and have a good carryover to make sure that we have the revenue projections that we need to fulfill our 2021 budget.
Very, very well. Very good. Very good. We are at that point in time now, coming to the close of construction season, so to speak, here in Marion. And I know there's been a lot of construction going on. Can you briefly kind of comment on what you have done? Are those projects done? Can you talk about that?
Sure. You know, most of our sewer projects are wrapped up. There may be just a couple small things to do. I know we had to do some more seeding and some tree lawns from a sewer project. They seeded during the height of summer when it was really hot, and the seed never took, but boy, those weeds took off, let me tell you that. So I don't know if they got back and reseeded that. Of course, this is the best time to plant grass seed, so we hope that they'll get that grass seed planted on those streets that needed it. The only project that we still have ongoing this year is a culvert replacement project, and that's on Bell Fountain Avenue, just down by the firehouse. Oh. And that's kind of a state-funded project because Bell Fountain is part of a state route that goes all the way out to Green Camp. Mm-hmm. And so that'll be wrapping up this year. They're slightly behind schedule because of the recent rains that we've had, but I think that they're going to wrap that up just fine this year. We also had our OPWC meeting today, actually, and OPWC is Ohio Public Works. And Ohio Public Works is where we apply for money for next year's sewer projects. So we don't know yet if OPWC will approve the projects that we have for 2021, but I think there were 3 sewer projects that we hope to get started on next year, and that's partially paid for by the city through the revenues that we generate through the sewer department, by OPWC, and a few other means that we have. So we're working on that, and we're also working with the Ohio Department of Transportation to do some safety and traffic improvements on Barks Road in Delaware Avenue. So that's right down there by the mall and Kroger's. That's kind of city, county. It's kind of the intersection of where the county meets the city. So we're working with the Ohio Department of Transportation and fine-tuning that project. That project won't be done probably until late next year or maybe the first of 2022 because the state is on a different fiscal calendar. They start on July 1st where we are on a fiscal calendar, January 1 through December 31st. Okay. So we'll have to wait and see how that project falls with the Ohio Department of Transportation and when those traffic improvements will be made.
It's like everything else. If you want to do some work on your house, you have to finance it and you have to figure out where the money comes from.
You got it. And we've got really good partners with the Ohio Department of Transportation. Yes. And so working through this project, this future project, has been very good for all of us.
Very good. Our previous marvelous police chief, Bill Collins, this is history, of course, has retired, and we have a new interim police chief. I just imagine that people are curious. What does that process look like? Number one, and number two, when will we actually have a police chief not interim, permanent?
Right. So first of all, congratulations to Chief Bill Collins. I think he's been retired for almost 3 weeks now, and from everything I've seen and heard on Facebook, he seems to be enjoying his new retirement and spending more time with the grandkids. And he's got a couple projects he's working on as well. But right now, what has happened in years past, because we're a statutory city, the mayor does not appoint the new police chief. That's the most important thing. In fact, the mayor plays almost no role at all in a new police chief. Where I do play a role is appointing an interim chief. So out of the 3 majors that we have, they are the 3 that are qualified to sit for the test to be the next chief. So I appoint one of them to be the interim chief until we get a full-time chief. Okay. And because Major McDonald has the most seniority, Major McDonald, now interim Chief McDonald, is holding down that position. as well as his major duties, so he's pulling kind of double duties. But I believe the test is slated to be administered in the 1st of November, and then it goes through the civil service process. We have a civil service commission, and they'll help administer the
At the
test.
state level?
That's at a city level.
Really?
At a city level. We
I
have
didn't
our
know
own
that.
civil service commission, yes. And so when the test results come back, they'll notify us, and whoever is the top score on the civil service test to become the next chief of police, that's how we get the next chief of police.
A lot of people don't know that.
No, they don't.
Now they do.
Yes.
Those watching at least do.
Well, and let me just say for the record that any of the 3 majors are qualified. They
Yeah.
have a lot of experience. They've been in the detective bureau, they've been on SRT, they've been in the drug unit. They've done everything in their career. That's how they've gotten to be majors in the Marion City Police Department. And major is the top rank
Yeah.
right before chief.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Yeah. So here's the reason why that is such an interesting topic to a lot of people. I know because people see me and they say, by the way, the next time you see the mayor, ask him this or that. And I've had people wonder, like, how does somebody get to be a police chief, or how does somebody get to be a whatever? When the comment that you made about statutory city and the Civil Service Commission and all of that perfectly answered how that happened. For instance, if you're a major, and if you're happy being a major, you don't have to apply to be a police chief. But so if you don't, so there's a way for somebody else to apply, and so there's a process, and it's merit based.
Yes.
In the sense that there's a test, and you have to pass, and you have to qualify, and so my point is, so when we have a police chief in Marion, Ohio, he has qualified on multiple levels, and not only that, but wants to be there.
And the interesting thing is the same process is followed for the fire department because we're statutory. Now, if we were a charter city, we could accept applications from anywhere in the country, and we could do interviews. And then there would be a team that would interview and select the best person through the interviews. But that's not what we are. We're not charter, we're statutory.
And that very distinction right there, I would bet that there's a number of people out there that thought, oh, statutory charter, now they can go to the web and they can look that one up, and they can find out more about themselves, meaning about the city of Marion where they live. So there's so many reasons why so many people have told me personally, and also myself included, just like I thought you had to go to state level for civil service, no, it's city. That kind of information we learn by you coming and laying this all out and explaining it all. And we are very grateful to have you here every month to do this. We're looking forward to next month for that. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and thank you, folks. Thank you very much for watching, because this program exists to help you understand more about the public affairs in your home area. And so thank you for watching. Again, I am your host. My name is John Peterson.